Hey guys, Datix here. Each Vault Hunter in Borderlands 4 offers a unique playstyle that empowers you with one of 3 signature abilities called action skills. Between your action skills, augments, capstones, and 3 branching skill trees, you can create a huge variety of supremely powerful builds. Check out my last video if you want to see how guns, enhancements, and ordnance can further affect these builds. So let's go through each Vault Hunter, what we know about them, and the skills system. First, let's take a look at the skill tab. Each Vault Hunter has their own skill tree across 3 action skills. We're looking at Vex the Siren skills right now. She's invested 19 points so far in the Vexcalation skill tree, which starts off with the action skill Incarna. We'll go through that soon. You'll notice an extensive skill tree with paths below this skill, and you'll have 3 different ones for the 3 different skills, making for 9 different paths. Respecking is possible for a cost at hubs located in the world. Throughout this skill tree though, you'll also unlock augments and capstones. At a baseline, you can have 1 augment and 1 capstone active. You have a few augment options, but capstones are reserved for the end skills of tree paths. We see 3 here for each skill tree. Reading a path's capstone will give you an idea of how this build will play. Skills picked across trees carry over no matter what skill you have selected, but augments and capstones won't. Last, each Vault Hunter has a unique trait, a passive bonus that impacts how they play. In Vex's case, she has Phase Covenant. It makes her attuned to the element type of her current gun, converting her action skills and melee damage into that type, which we see during gameplay where she converts her Eldritch Blast and also converts her Phase Familiar named Trouble. So let's dive a bit deeper into these 2 skills. When activated, Vex creates a Phase Explosion, dealing damage to nearby enemies and fully restoring her health. While active, Vex can use Eldritch Blast and gains increased movement speed. Eldritch Blast is activated by pressing L1 on the PlayStation controller, which will be different for other systems, and fires from her offhand, dealing damage to nearby enemies on impact. Dealing gun damage reduces Eldritch Blast's cooldown. You can also press and hold L1 to end Incarna early, partially refunding the cooldown being 55 seconds and the duration being 25. All of these stats will be modified based on your level and skill tree investment. So Incarna is a multi-purpose skill. Since its cooldown is not that long, you'll be able to use it every fight. It can function as an oh shit button, instantly healing you and blowing up things around you, or it can be used to open fights, giving you a powerful offhand blast to fire between gunshots, which in turn will reduce its cooldown. Not to mention both playstyles benefit from a 25% movement speed bonus. Even though we won't see it, I have a feeling the augment highlighted is what provides the Eldritch Blast detonation effect by pressing square. Other augments would modify this skill in other ways. Let's look how that would work in more detail with the next skill, Phase Familiar. Vex is joined by her minion, Trouble. When killed, Trouble will respawn after a cooldown, and also inconveniently the person playing Vex will probably sing Taylor Swift's Trouble every single time. Press L1 to teleport Trouble, dealing damage in an area. It then transforms into a badass version, fully restoring health and gaining increased damage for a duration. Activating Phase Familiar will respawn Trouble if currently dead. I like how they say dead instead of knocked out or downed or any of those other terms. You really need to lean into it, Gearbox. Anyway, this has a shorter cooldown of 45 seconds and a 20-second duration. That's for the badass duration, as the pet stays with you permanently when you have this skill equipped. Until it dies, of course. This skill will provide ongoing damage and distractions for you, something you may enjoy while you're playing solo, as we know how powerful pet builds can be for leveling. Though turning the creature badass seems to have some fun applications, which we will see soon. First, let's look at a passive. Hasty Friends has 3 stages, giving movement speed and damage reduction to you and your minions. This means any minions you make off gear as well, and another minion I'll show you later. 15% movement and 20% reduction after you've invested 3 ranks, which is not bad at all. Another is Overpowered. With 5 stages, it provides Vex increased action skill damage the higher her health. This might be good to get for your Eldritch Blast too. 1 point is plus 6%, with all 5 giving you plus 30%. Putting 5 skills in the top tier of the tree unlocks the next row. We can briefly see the Overprotective skill, a 5-stage passive that, on kill, grants you and your minions an overshield. In this row is an augment, so we can finally see how it works. This one is called Blink Strike. It's a command skill that makes it so if you press and hold L1 rather than tapping it, you command Trouble to blink strike the enemy you're currently targeting, dealing damage. Blink Strike always critically strikes enemies below 50% HP, so it's a good skill to save until this criteria is met. A very much DPS focused skill with a low 25-second cooldown. The next augment is Violent Outburst, another command skill you activate by holding L1. In this case, Trouble explodes himself, dealing ordnance damage to all nearby enemies and restoring health to Vex. To learn what ordnance is, check out my previous video. Basically, this will be powerful if you focus on your grenades or heavy weapons. While Phase Familiar is active, sacrifice 33% of his maximum health instead. It does a lot of damage and restores a huge 75% of your max health. This is most definitely an oh shit button. You literally make your pet explode to save you and deal damage. Though, like I mentioned, if you go an ordnance build, this could be huge DPS. Note there is no cooldown. You could do this until your pet dies. So if you have great regen on it, well, that's another build idea. Equipping this is possible without investing a skill point. So tapping L1 will make Trouble badass, teleporting in with an explosion and giving him a buff to do 50% more damage, then holding L1 will make him explode. So using one after the other makes a good combo. You can see in the UI, once an augment is applied, it has an icon bottom middle to represent its cooldown. Here we can see Trouble going badass and dealing some big AoE. Moving on, we briefly glaze over Morning, which needs 5 more points in this tree before being unlocked. It makes your kill skills, like the other one we glaze over, gain increased effectiveness. The exact numbers are unknown without a longer hover, but the brief look was to get us to the path on the left's capstone, Trouble Bubble. This gives Trouble an overshield when he deals damage. When the skill is active, Trouble gains an elemental aura, dealing ordnance damage over time to nearby enemies. Overshield is gained at 80% of damage dealt. The aura damage right now with this current setup is 31 every half second. So this one leans into the tanky role, giving your pet damage mitigation naturally based on a large percentage of damage dealt and a damaging aura passively, both of which work well together. Trouble doing more damage makes him more tanky. Also keep in mind this works for an ordnance build, just like the capstone we talked about before, since it bases the aura damage off ordnance damage. So that's everything we know about the skill tree so far. But what about the Vault Hunters? We will, out the gate, get access to 4 Vault Hunters: Vex, Rafa, Harlo, and Aean, with a heavy hinting that we'll be getting more in DLC. Well, we started with Vex, so let's continue. Vex had a rough upbringing that was made more complicated by receiving her siren powers. Her cynical and sarcastic demeanor comes from having to fend for herself and scrape for everything she's got. But underneath her salty exterior, Vex is an empath who knows better than anyone how much life can suck. Ever the pessimist, Vex still believes in helping others, and if helping others means dealing damage to oppressive jerks, Vex will always be first in line. As a siren, she has mystical abilities, and she sounds a whole lot like Cortana's voice actress.
I'm almost afraid to ask what's in the tube.
She uses phase energy in her skills. You saw the first 2 already, but here is the third. Looks to me like a harpy scream. She can also summon different minions, like this Reaper version of herself. This here looks like a modified version of her Eldritch Blast, which you can send out and then detonate with square. In my previous video, I thought the detonation was a weapon effect, but it's clearly this succubus's skill. You'll also notice a nifty cooldown bar showing how long the effect lasts and how much longer you can cast the blast. The next Vault Hunter is Rafa, class Exo Soldier. Rafa was born and raised in microgravity, which severely altered his bone density and muscles, making it impossible for him to survive elsewhere. Desperate to explore, he signed up to Tidior's military force. In exchange for a tour of duty, his body was altered for a new kind of exosuit. But when it became clear Tidior never intended to end his service, Rafa went AWOL. It's ironic that the throwaway weapon manufacturer took a person others would throw away and didn't want to throw him away. Now he's on the run and plans to enjoy whatever time he has left before his Tidior dead frame ends him for good. His main thing is he can digistrike weapons. Rafa seems to activate a mode where this blue visor covers his face and your screen. In that mode, Rafa can have a powerful Tidior gun in the offhand, or these powerful arc knives. Yes, that's their name, even though they're more like swords than knives. Imagine trying to cut up your dinner with one of these. No doubt you press the button again to do this powerful blade storm attack. Either that or it's an augment that provides that skill. He can also deploy these auto turrets on his back. Like mentioned, he seems to be all about making weapons thanks to the exosuit. The next Vault Hunter is Harlo, class Gravitar. Harlo is a former Malawan combat scientist driven by the need to understand how things work. While this initially made her an outcast amongst her Trant relatives, Harlo has used her intellect to bring new tech and gadgetry to the battlefield as a Vault Hunter. Harlo's brilliance is apparent in everything she does, but so is her enthusiasm and love for life. Harlo brings everything to the fight, including her sunny disposition. Always ready to give a beatdown, her spirit can't be beat. So yeah, as you'd expect, she is the scientist Vault Hunter, using tech to beat her enemies. One skill seems to trap enemies in bubbles for her to follow up with something nasty, slamming him to the ground or dealing damage in other ways. Another skill has her digistructing this huge cannon to deal damage to enemies and explode at its destination. Passing through enemies seems to leave some kind of effect on them. This could very well be an ordnance weapon, but it's digistructing in instead of being equipped, as well as it having similar effects to her bubbles. All that makes me confident it's Harlo's skill. The final Vault Hunter is Aean, class Forge Knight. Aean was raised in a vault monster worshipping cult until the vault was opened and the creature turned on everyone he loved. As the only survivor, he dedicated his life to finding and killing as many of these beasts as he can. Aean, a warrior poet, is introspective and unflinching to his duty, but despite his hardened appearance, he has a warm attitude, often regaling comrades in arms with stories and advice earned throughout his travels. As a skill, he seems to have a shield of some kind and elemental axes. They're summoned and thrown out in different ways. Here are 2 twin ice axes being thrown out, and here are fire and ice axes being summoned. If you slow it down, it seems like he makes a choice between the two, throwing one out and unsummoning the other. Here's the effect again, both times choosing the fire axe. It's not always axes though. Here he is charging in for a fiery melee. And finally, here he is slamming down a fiery hammer. If nothing else, what is consistent is that he's all about elemental damage effects, fire and ice, with brawler type weapons. But it's hard to classify any of the Vault Hunters at this point. Just from briefly looking at the game's Siren, we can see she supports drastically different playstyles and tries not to pigeonhole you into one thing, with short cooldowns and lots of choice. I feel all the Vault Hunters will have ways of absorbing and mitigating damage, dealing damage, and using weapons at the very least. But what do you think? Does any Vault Hunter stand out to you so far? Let me know below. Thanks so much for watching, and for everything Borderlands 4, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.